15 years ago, a mysterious hyperspace gate appeared over the Pacific Ocean in our world. Elves, fairies, and other fantastic creatures came through the gate from the other side and established diplomatic relations with Earth. In the present day, Cariana Island. While performing what appears to be a routine drug bust on a couple of criminals in San Teresa looking to trade a kidnapped fairy, one of the suspects breaks free from his handcuffs with some magical power, survives several 9mm shots, and snaps the neck of one detective before escaping with the fairy. The surviving detective, Kei Matoba, informs the widow of his dead partner Rick Fury before returning home. Kei wants to hunt down Rick's murderer, but his superiors insist he meet up with a Samanian noble the next day as he speaks their language. Kei reluctantly accepts their request, riding on a ship with the local coast guard to meet the noble. He is surprised to find the noble is a little girl named Tilarna Exidilica who proclaims herself a knight of Merber who has come to rescue the fairy and punish those who kidnapped her under a treaty established with the United Nations that gives her nation the authority to do so. Despite Kei's hostility towards non-human people he considers aliens, his superiors force him to team up with her. Tilarna quickly reveals her unfamiliarity with Earth customs and technology as Kei constantly warns her not to touch anything. Later, Kei gets a tip that a Mexican gang of smugglers is involved with the kidnapped fairy, and he visits the shady priest Biz O'Neill for information. He follows the lead to an apartment building where Tilarna senses some magical entity, and the two witness a man stabbing a Mexican gang member before turning a gun on them. Kei and Tilarna have trouble keeping the attacker down before Tilarna slices the enemy with her sword. Kei chastises her for killing the attacker instead of keeping it alive for questioning, but Tilarna answers that it was controlled by mildy magic that turned the body into a lifeless puppet. The dead bodies are later transported to the coroner, Cecil, who confirms Tilarna's analysis they were dead yet able to move. Tilarna says she can smell evil Latina from the corpse. The captured fairy from before was used to make a fairy dust drug the men ingested before being turned into lifeless puppets. Kei reluctantly lets Tilarna stay at his home, where she learns he has been keeping a cat despite being allergic to it because he felt guilty for the cat getting injured while he chased a suspect. Meanwhile, an elf named Elbaji meets a terrorist named Kareem to demonstrate the power of a prototype fairy bomb that can instantly turn people into puppet corpses. After attending Rick's funeral, Kei and Tilarna are sidetracked when they learn of two police corpses in a nearby river. Tilarna confirms fairy dust on the bodies and claims that for such a high concentration they would need gold to act as a catalyst, but it has to be sculpted in a precise manner that is difficult for most craftsmen. Kei decides to look for anyone who has recently purchased precise manufacturing equipment, and finds a club owner named Dennis Elbaji has done so through a shell company. Despite Kei's warnings about building a solid legal case, Tilarna decides to go after Elbaji herself, leaving Kei behind with her sword. Kei discovers that Tilarna left her sword behind to symbolize her willingness to break the rules and track down Dennis Elbaji. Tilarna infiltrates Dennis's nightclub with Biz's help, then meets Dennis himself, intending to take back the kidnapped fairy. However, Dennis beats her after a quick sword fight and kidnaps her instead, taking her to an abandoned temple in the outskirts of San Teresa. Kei stakes out the area from afar, but when Tilarna uses magic to escape, Kei ignores his orders to wait for a SWAT team and runs in by himself. Tilarna enters a room in the burning temple to find it stocked with hundreds of fairies being used to create fairy dust. Dennis rants about how he enjoys the American dream of Earth as opposed to the noble life he was expected to lead in their homeworld, then begins sword-fighting Tilarna again. Suddenly, Kei rushes in and tosses Tilarna her trusted sword, letting her overpower Dennis and deliver a killing blow. However, Tilarna senses the original fairy is not the one Dennis held, and goes with Kei to find her. Kei quickly spots the wizard Zalata and cuffs him before he can escape, when Jack Roth appears and shoots Tilarna before holding Kei at gunpoint. Jack helps Zalata escape and reveals that he was the mole quietly helping Zalata in order to spark a war between the humans and Samanians using the fairy bomb. Before he shoots Kei, Tilarna rises up, giving Kei a split second to shoot Jack in the chest. Tilarna reveals that Jack's bullet hit her sword's guard as Jack commandeers a car to take them back to the city. The two head to a high-rise building called Forest Tower, dodging Zalata's traps, when Tilarna spots the fairy on the roof inside a ticking time bomb. Kei attempts to defuse the fairy bomb but is fatally struck by Zalata's magic. Kei uses his own senses to pinpoint Zalata's location and shoot him, exposing his true location to Tilarna, who cuts off his arm before he escapes. With the bomb about to explode and Kei dying on the roof, the fairy decides to use sacrificial magic to kill herself and help Tilarna heal Kei before the bomb explodes. As the bomb needed a living fairy to work, the psychic explosion didn't happen. After the incident, Tillarna heads home and Kay returns to his life, but sometime later Tillarna appears in his house to announce the San Teresa MPD hired her as a detective so she can track Zalata and other criminals. On their first raid together, Tillarna cuts off the trigger finger of a suspect as they storm a house and Kay gets chewed out by the new chief for her actions. After the suspects are arrested, the police discover a coffin with a mummified Sumanian woman in their garage and take it to Cecil for examination. While Tillarna brutally interrogates one of the suspects, he confesses he robbed the coffin from a certain graveyard, thinking he could get much money by selling it. Tillarna rushes to the medical examiner's office while Cecil discovers her assistant having his blood sucked out by the supposedly dead woman. Tillarna fights the regenerated woman, calling her a vampire. Tillarna and Kay manage to save Cecil and cut the vampire's arm off, but she escapes into the city. The police deploy K9 units and SWAT teams to hunt her down while the new chief inspector defends Tillarna against an angry superintendent. Tillarna and Kay follow her trail to a closed shopping mall, when the vampire strikes again, throwing Kay into a fountain a couple floors down and knocking out Tillarna. Tillarna is held hostage by the vampire, who wants to know what world she has awakened into, wondering if it's connected to a gate mentioned in the Book of Neba. As the vampire prepares to bite Tillarna, Kay bursts in with a SWAT team and IR goggles, riddling the vampire with bullets. The vampire barely escapes the scene with the help of a distant Zalata, who uses his magic to direct her to an underground passage, hoping to get the Book of Neba from her in exchange for saving her. The vampire refuses, instead draining the blood of the Salarim and Zalata spoke through to regenerate herself. Kay and Tillarna track her down again in a subway tunnel, and Kay shoots her multiple times, but can't finish her off. Kay is pinned down by the vampire as a train is about to run them both over when Tillarna manages to get Kay free just as the train runs over the vampire, the light of the high beams and the weight of the vehicle both ensuring she can't regenerate. After a speeding truck clips Kay's car, Kay chases down the truck only to find the driver missing and a ton of porn mags spilled onto the road. Tillarna moves Kay's car but accidentally leaves it in the path of a different truck, resulting in the car being destroyed. The chief orders Kay to find out who stole the truck full of porn mags and Tillarna to get a driver's license. Kay ropes in a couple other vice detectives to make the bust on the porn smuggler while Tillarna is exposed to porn for the first time. Detective Tony McBee puts on a disguise and heads to Biz's club with his partner to meet the smuggler, a young Sumanian named Gavin, hoping to make money by fencing the porn mags to Sumanian nobles who don't have the technology to mass-produce porn in their world. Later, Kay receives a red sports car from the chief while Tillarna practices driving with Cecil. The next day, Tony sets up to bust Gavin, but Gavin's partner betrays them both and holds Tony hostage as Kay gets blinded by a muzzle flash. As the suspect escapes, Tillarna tosses Kay into his new car and takes the driver's seat for herself, chasing down the suspect's car by crashing into it. Later that night, Kay comes home to find Tillarna has redecorated a whole room of his house for herself. The San Teresa MPD perform a sting on a local prostitution ring with Tillarna acting as bait. One of the suspects arrested turns out to be Cole Mosalime, a Sumanian man running for mayor of San Teresa. The next day, Tillarna heads outside and runs into Zoe, one of the girls from the ring who was released on bail. Tillarna is roped into helping Zoe move when she finds out that Zoe is a skilled photographer who dreams of opening her own exhibition someday. Later that night, Kay picks up Tillarna, warning her not to get too involved with Zoe as she might react negatively if she discovers Tillarna is a cop. However, Tillarna disregards his warning, splitting time between her police duties and hanging out with Zoe. Later, a fake list of customers gets leaked to the press, threatening the prosecutor's case, while Cole meets with Zoe to try and find the real list before the police. Tillarna finds out that Zoe was the last person to access the list and goes to confront her in person, revealing she was a cop. Zoe states she is disgusted with Tillarna even though she didn't mean to lie to her, only for Zoe to be shot by a hitman, who Kay then shoots. While Cole suspects his wife of setting up the hit to clear his name, Tillarna considers going after Cole herself as she receives news Zoe died on the operating table. Tillarna takes down an escaping plane with her sword as it collapses into pieces in a nearby swamp shortly after takeoff. The police are unable to find the plane, but discover a crate full of several objects. Kay tasks Tillarna to catalog the items from the crate for tomorrow, but the cat Kuroi trips over a tiny crossbow, firing a bolt that pierces Tillarna's arm. Kay wakes up to find both Tillarna and Kuroi acting odd and leaves for the police station himself. Tillarna finds herself trapped in Kuroi's body and vice versa due to some magic in the crossbow. However, Kay accidentally tosses the crossbow out with the trash. Tillarna manages to text Cecil to come over to help her recover the crossbow before the trash gets carried away, but Curie accidentally knocks Cecil out while in Tilarna's body. Cecil wakes up to find the dumpster empty and tries to track down the garbage truck herself. While Kay tries to get info from a sick biz about Hellmans, Cecil and Tilarna head to the city's sanitation department but are too late to stop the garbage from being dumped. Tilarna jumps into the trash and tracks down the crossbow, but it gets destroyed in a trash compactor as Tilarna jumps out at the last moment. Suddenly, Tilarna wakes up in her own body as Hellmans is beating her for info about the crossbow. She easily beats him and nearly kills him until Kay appears to arrest him instead. Later, Chief Zimmer hosts a cookout at his home with other members of the Vice Squad. Suddenly, news breaks that a candidate for mayor named Cons was shot by a Samanian with no criminal record. The chief suspects that Zalata is involved and orders Kay and Tilarna to head to the coroner's office, where Tilarna confirms the smell of Latina on the corpse. On their way out, Kay confronts another officer who makes a racist remark at Tilarna. Back at Zimmer's house, Tilarna tries to think who would have the most to gain from Khan's death. Kay goes to interview Cole as a person of interest in Khan's death, but Cole and his wife don't give Kay any good answers. Suddenly, Cole is shot by a Samanian man after going on stage to speak at a campaign rally. Kay and Tilarna chase the suspect down and Tilarna cuts off his arm, killing him. However, Tilarna finds that the man was actually a human who used magic to change both his face and the weapon he used to shoot Cole. Before Kay can find any more clues, the FBI takes control of the scene and pushes him aside. Later, the police receive word that Cole died in the hospital. Tilarna tries to explain to the rest of the Vice Squad what Veyfot steel is and how it was used to kill Cole. Kay prepares to interview Tort, the last remaining mayoral candidate, as his supporters chant racist slogans nearby. Cole's assassination sparks riots across the town. Kay and Tilarna interviews Turt about his possible involvement in the recent murders, but Kay comes away unconvinced that Turt was behind the attacks. Meanwhile, the Vice Squad tries to chase down a lead about Cole's assailant and find out that he was a former U.S. Marine with a bulldog tattoo. As Kay and Tilarna head home, Kay mentions that Tilarna has caused himself and his friends to soften their stance on Samanians. The two find out that Cole's wife, Marla, has entered the mayoral race in his place. Tilarna suspects Marla was the one who ordered the recent murders, but has no proof. The next day, Kay gets a panicked call from a reporter and agrees to meet him in a park. The reporter gives him a printed photo showing Marla meeting with the shooter in a hotel room before Cole was killed. Suddenly, Kay, Tilarna, and the reporter are surrounded by FBI agents. As the three are taken away, Tilarna notes that all of the agents except Ronald Chan are being controlled by magic. Kay and Tilarna are thrown in the back of a van, where Zalata sits in the driver's seat. Kay and Tilarna are kidnapped and taken to an apartment building. Tilarna awakens in a penthouse suite, where Zalata tells her about his renewed plan to spark a race war between the Samanians and humans, with Ronald taking the role that Jack previously held. Meanwhile, Kay is being interrogated by Ronald in the basement, as Ronald tries to get Kay's smartphone key so he can obtain the only other copy of the incriminating photo of Marla before the election. Kay manages to snap Ronald's neck with his legs, then fights his way through Zalata's puppets to the penthouse suite, intervening just before Zalata can kill Tilarna. Kay and Tilarna work together and soon Kay cuts off Zalata's head with a sword. While waiting for backup to arrive, Kay asks Tilarna if he should turn in the photo as evidence, knowing it would lead to Marla's arrest and probably hand Tort the election. Tilarna decides to do so, believing in the people of the city as she stays attached to the San Teresa MPD. This is the end of the video, so please watching all of my anime recap series. Thanks for watching.